All right, so are you ready to unlock some ancient wisdom? Because today we are diving deep all the way back to ancient China.
Ooh, I'm ready.
To explore the Yellow Emperor's classic of internal medicine.
Sounds fascinating.
Specifically Chapter 74, Basic Question, the Great Treatise on Truth in the Ultimate.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is, and we're talking a foundational text of traditional Chinese medicine here.
Okay.
And it's actually structured as a dialogue between the legendary Yellow Emperor and his physician, Qi Bo.
I see.
And you know what? It's surprisingly relevant even today.
You know, I've heard that, but I'm really curious to hear more about why.
Well, this chapter lays out a whole system for understanding the body's connection to the universe and the forces of nature. And honestly, it might just shift your perspective on health.
I'm intrigued already. So where do we even begin with something this profound?
Well, I think the best place to start is with the core concept.
Okay.
And that is the idea of the 6 Qi.
6 Qi.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we've got wind, cold, heat, dampness, dryness, and fire.
So before you go on, I'm guessing this isn't just about, like, the weather, right?
You are correct. It's not just about the weather.
Yeah.
In TCM, these are considered fundamental energies that actually shape everything around us and, more importantly, within us.
Okay, so you're saying that the same wind key that makes the trees sway can also be, like, causing my headaches.
Well, it's not about the literal wind, but rather the energetic principle of wind.
Okay, I think I get it.
So imagine this. The same wind key that whips up a storm outside can also create a whirlwind of, like, anxiety within you.
Oh, wow, I see.
That's the power of understanding these forces.
So how do these 6 Qi actually impact our health? I mean, how does that work?
So each key has a unique influence on our bodies.
Okay.
And when they're out of balance, they can manifest as specific symptoms.
And that makes sense.
For instance, too much wind key might show up as dizziness, tremors, or even like a racing mind.
Wow.
On the other hand, if you're dealing with digestive issues or feeling sluggish,
Yeah.
it could be an excess of dampness key.
So basically our bodies are kind of like walking, talking weather patterns.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
And just like in nature, where a sudden cold snap
Right.
can disrupt the balance of an ecosystem,
Okay.
an excess or deficiency of any of the 6 Qi can throw our internal harmony out of whack.
All right, I'm starting to see how everything is connected here.
Right.
But I have to ask, if these keys are constantly shifting and interacting, how do we ever achieve balance?
That's a great question.
Is it even possible?
It is, and that's where the concept of intervening key comes in.
Intervening key.
Exactly. And this is a key takeaway for you because it's a more subtle layer of understanding within TCM.
Okay.
Think of the intervening key as like the ultimate mediator, ensuring smooth transitions between the 6 Qi.
Okay.
And maintaining harmony amidst all the change.
So it's not just about these, like, 6 powerful forces duking it out.
Oh, no.
There's a force working behind the scenes to keep everything in check.
Exactly. The intervening key is all about balance. It's like the conductor of an orchestra, making sure that all the instruments are playing together in harmony.
That's a great analogy.
So I've got the 6 Qi, this intervening key, and it's starting to feel like a pretty complex system.
It is, but what's remarkable is that this ancient text doesn't just identify these forces, it actually offers strategies for treating imbalances too.
Okay, now we're talking. Give you the ancient secrets.
Okay, so one of the fascinating approaches that Chapter 74 describes is using the 5 flavors.
5 flavors.
Yes. Sour, bittersweet, pungent, and salty.
Interesting.
To counteract the effects of each qi. So it's all about using food as medicine.
That's really interesting. So if I'm feeling anxious and scattered, maybe a sign of too much wind key?
Could be.
What flavor would I reach for?
In that case, you might benefit from pungent flavors.
Pungent?
Yes, because they have a dispersing quality. Think ginger garlic or even strong spices like black pepper.
Okay.
They can help to move that excess wind and calm the nervous system.
You know what? I actually love ginger tea when I'm feeling stressed. Maybe I've been subconsciously balancing my qi all along.
Perhaps you have.
But it's not just about flavors, is it?
No, the text also mentions other techniques like acupuncture and moxibustion,
Right.
which work directly with the energy pathways in the body.
Now, I've heard of acupuncture, but remind me what moxibustion is all about.
So it's a technique where a practitioner burns a specific herb called mugwort near acupuncture points.
Okay.
And the heat from the burning mugwort helps to warm and invigorate the flow of qi in the body.
So it's kind of like a targeted heat therapy.
Exactly. And it can be incredibly effective for conditions where there's stagnation or coldness in the system.
This is so fascinating. So we've got these 6 qi constantly influencing us.
Right.
An intervening qi working to keep things balanced.
Yeah.
And then these specific treatments to address any imbalances.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
But I'm starting to see how this ancient wisdom is still so relevant today.
Absolutely. And we've only just scratched the surface. There's a lot more to uncover in Chapter 74.
Okay, like what?
Well, including the fascinating concept of how these key cycles play out on a larger scale, influencing everything from the seasons to animal behavior.
Okay, I'm fairly hooked. Tell me more.
So we've been talking about how the 6 chi impact us individually, right? But what's truly fascinating is how these energies are also constantly interacting and influencing each other on like a grand scale.
So it's not just about what's happening inside of it, it's about these larger patterns too.
Exactly. Think of it like a cosmic dance with each chi taking turns kind of leading and following, sometimes supporting, sometimes challenging the others.
So is it like one chi overpowering another, or is it more nuanced than that?
It's definitely nuanced. Chapter 74 describes the specific cycle of overcoming.
Okay.
For example, wind can overcome dampness.
Okay.
Think about how a strong wind can dry up a puddle.
Right.
Dampness, in turn, can overcome dryness. Imagine how rain can soften parched earth.
Yeah.
And then dryness can overcome cold, as dryness draws moisture out and creates warmth.
I'm seeing a pattern here. It's like everything has its counterbalance, its way of keeping things in check.
You're getting it. And that's the brilliance of this ancient system. You know, it recognizes that nothing exists in isolation. Everything is interconnected and constantly influencing everything else.
But if these ki are constantly overcoming each other, wouldn't that lead to chaos? Like, how do we ever find stability?
Well, that's where the concept of resurgence comes in. It's like a built-in safety mechanism.
Okay.
A counterforce that arises when one chi becomes too dominant.
So even when things seem out of balance, there's this force working to restore harmony.
Precisely, resurgence ensures that no single ki reigns supreme for too long. It's the body's way of self-regulating, constantly seeking that sweet spot of equilibrium.
That's incredibly reassuring to know.
It is.
That even amidst all this change, there's a force pushing us back towards balance.
And here's where it gets even more mind-boggling.
Oh boy.
These cycles of overcoming and resurgence aren't just happening within us.
Yeah.
They're happening all around us, too.
Wait, are you saying that these chi cycles are influencing the seasons and the weather?
Absolutely. The Yellow Emperor's Classic explains that these cycles are what drive the changes we see in nature.
Wow.
From the blossoming of spring to the dormancy of winter, even animal behavior is influenced by these energetic shifts.
So we're not just talking about individual health, we're talking about the interconnectedness of everything in the universe.
Exactly. It's a truly holistic view where humans are just one part of a much larger web of energy and influence.
This is making me rethink my whole relationship to the world around me.
That's the power of this ancient wisdom.
But let's bring it back to the practical side of things for a moment. If these ki are so crucial to our health, how did ancient Chinese physicians actually diagnose imbalances? Do they have like special tools or techniques?
They did. And one of the most fascinating aspects of TCM is pulse diagnosis.
Pulse diagnosis?
Yes.
Yeah.
By carefully feeling the pulse at different points on the wrist, a skilled practitioner can gain incredible insights into a person's qi.
Hold on, you're telling me they could feel someone's pulse and tell if they had too much wen qi or not enough fire qi? That's pretty wild.
It might sound unbelievable, but Chapter 74 goes into great detail about the specific pulse qualities associated with each ki.
Really?
For example, a wiry tense pulse is a classic sign of excess wind, while a slippery rapid pulse might indicate heat.
I never realized a pulse could reveal so much.
It can.
I usually just check to make sure it's there. But so far we've talked about identifying existing imbalances. What about preventing future illness? Is that what pulse diagnosis comes in?
You're spot on. One of the remarkable things about pulse diagnosis is its ability to detect subtle energetic shifts before they manifest as full-blown illness.
So it's like a preventative health tool.
Exactly. It allows practitioners to address imbalances before they become serious problems.
So it's not just about treating symptoms, it's about understanding the body's warning signs and intervening early.
Precisely. It's a proactive approach to health that focuses on maintaining balance and preventing disease rather than just reacting to it once it's already taken hold.
That makes so much sense. It's like getting a glimpse into the future of your health and taking steps to steer things in the right direction.
And speaking of getting to the root of things, Chapter 74 introduces another fascinating concept, the 3 levels of illness.
3 levels. Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me.
So the text describes illness as manifesting on one of 3 levels, root branch and middle.
Root branch. I'm getting a tree metaphor vibe here. Am I on the right track?
You are. It's a perfect analogy. Imagine a tree with its roots, branches, and trunk. An illness can originate at any of these levels.
Okay, I'm following. So the root level would be the underlying cause of the illness, like the source of the problem.
Exactly. It's the deepest level, the foundation from which the illness springs.
Okay.
The branch level represents the symptoms, the outward manifestations of that underlying imbalance.
So if the root is like a nutrient deficiency in the soil, the branches might start to wither and turn yellow. Those are the symptoms.
A perfect example.
Okay.
But then there's the middle level. This is where things get a bit more complex.
Uh-oh.
It refers to a situation where the relationship between the root and the branch is less clear-cut.
So it's not always a simple case of like, this caused that.
Exactly. Sometimes the illness arises from a more intricate interplay between the internal and external factors. It's like a tangled web where the root and the branch are intertwined.
This is fascinating. Seems like it would take a lot of skill to diagnose and treat illnesses at that middle level.
It does, but the key takeaway here is that TCM recognizes the importance of treating the whole person, not just the symptoms. It's about addressing the root, the branch, and the middle in order to restore true balance.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh.
It's not just about putting a Band-Aid on the problem. It's about understanding the whole system and how it's interconnected.
Exactly, and that's where the principles of opposition and conformity come in.
Opposition and conformity. Okay, now my brain is doing a double take.
Yeah.
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay, so think of it this way. Opposition is the more straightforward approach. You're using something opposite to counteract the imbalance. So if there's excess cold, you apply heat. If there's excess dampness, you use something drying.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like fighting fire with water.
Exactly. But conformity is where things get a bit more counterintuitive.
Uh-oh.
It involves using something seemingly similar to address the imbalance.
Wait, you're saying you can fight fire with fire?
Well, not literally.
Okay, good.
But the idea is that sometimes pushing back directly against an imbalance can create more resistance. Conformity is about working with the body's natural tendencies, subtly redirecting the flow of qi to restore balance.
So it's like a judo move using the opponent's energy against them.
That's a great analogy. It's about understanding the nuances of each qi and how it's interacting with the body, and then finding the most skillful way to restore harmony.
This is mind-blowing. It's like a whole different way of thinking about health and healing.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you know when to use opposition and when to use conformity?
That's where the expertise of a skilled TCM practitioner comes in. It takes years of study and practice to master these principles and apply them effectively.
It sounds like a delicate dance, finding the right approach for each individual.
It is, and it highlights the depth and sophistication of TCM. You know, it's not a one-size-fits-all system. It's about tailoring treatment to the individual's unique needs and circumstances.
This is giving me a whole new appreciation for the complexity of this ancient wisdom.
I'm glad to hear it.
And it makes me wonder about the interplay between our internal state and the external world. Is that what the text means by guest qi and host qi?
You're exactly right. Chapter 74 dives into this fascinating dynamic between these two forces.
Okay, break it down for me. Who's the guest and who's the host in this scenario?
Well, think of guest qi as all the external factors that influence our health.
Okay.
Things like the weather, the climate, the food we eat, even the emotional atmosphere around us.
Okay.
Host qi, on the other hand, is our internal energy, our vitality, the force that keeps us going.
So guest qi is like the visitor coming into our home, our body, and host qi is us, the residents.
I like that analogy. And just like with any house guest, if the guest is too demanding or disruptive, it can throw things off balance.
Right. So if I'm constantly exposed to extreme weather or surrounded by negativity, that could weaken my host qi.
Exactly. And on the flip side, if our host qi is weak, we're more susceptible to the influence of guest qi. It's like having a weak immune system.
Right.
You're more likely to get sick when exposed to germs.
So it's a constant balancing act between what's happening inside and outside of us.
Precisely. And maintaining that balance is key to staying healthy. Chapter 74 emphasizes the importance of both strengthening our host qi and being mindful of the influence of guest qi.
It's a reminder that we're not just isolated individuals, we're constantly interacting with our environment.
Right.
And that interaction has a direct impact on our well-being.
Exactly. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of Chapter 74.
Okay.
The hierarchy of herbs in traditional Chinese medicine formulas.
Oh yeah, I remember reading about this. Something about emperors and ministers and assistants. It sounds more like a royal court than a prescription.
That's a great way to put it. It's a system that recognizes that just like in any well-functioning society,
Right.
each element has its role to play.
So tell me more about this herbal hierarchy. How does it work?
Well, just like in a kingdom, you have the emperor at the top.
Okay.
This is the main herb in the formula, the one that directly erases the primary imbalance.
So the emperor herb is like the CEO calling the shots.
Exactly. Then you have the ministers.
Okay.
These are herbs that support the emperor,
Uh-huh.
enhancing its actions or addressing secondary imbalances.
So they're like the executive team helping to implement the emperor's vision.
Precisely. And then you have the assistants.
Assistants, okay.
Yes, these are herbs that address specific symptoms or help to harmonize the formula as a whole.
It's like having a team of specialists, each with their own area of expertise.
Exactly. And finally, you have the envoys or messengers.
Envoys, messengers, got it.
These are herbs that help to guide the other herbs to the right place in the body.
Right.
Or enhance their absorption.
So they're like the delivery drivers, making sure everything gets where it needs to go.
That's a great analogy. The key takeaway here is that in TCM, herbs are rarely used in isolation. It's all about creating a synergistic blend where each herb plays its part in restoring balance and harmony.
This is amazing. It's like a whole different level of herbalism where the herbs are working together like a well-oiled machine.
Exactly, and it speaks to the depth and sophistication of this ancient system of healing.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding the right herb, it's about understanding how to combine them in a way that maximizes their effectiveness.
This has been an incredible journey so far.
It has.
We've covered so much ground,
Yeah.
from the 6 Qi to pulse diagnosis to the hierarchy of herbs. Is there anything else we should know about Chapter 74 before we wrap up?
Well, we've touched on some of the key concepts, but there's one more fascinating idea that I think is worth exploring. It's the notion that just as there are cycles of overcoming and resurgence within the body,
Right.
there are also similar cycles playing out in the larger world.
So you're saying these key dynamics aren't just limited to our individual health.
Mm-hmm.
They're influencing everything around us.
Exactly. The Yellow Emperor's Classic talks about how these cycles of change are evident in everything.
Wow.
From the rise and fall of civilizations to the ebb and flow of economic trends, even historical events can be seen through the lens of these energetic patterns.
So we're talking about a truly macrocosmic view of Qi. It's not just personal. It's affecting the entire planet.
Precisely. It's a reminder that we're all part of a much larger interconnected web.
Right.
And that the same forces that shape our individual lives are also shaping the world around us.
This is mind-blowing. It's like zooming out from the microcosm of our bodies to the macrocosm of history and seeing these same patterns repeating themselves.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of this ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
It offers a perspective that encompasses both the individual and the collective. It's a holistic view that recognizes the interconnectedness of all things.
I'm feeling a serious sense of awe right now.
I can understand that.
Like a whole new way of understanding the world and my place in it.
And that's just the beginning.
Really?
There's so much more to explore in the world of TCM and in the wisdom of the Yellow Emperor's Classic.
This deep dive has definitely left me wanting more.
I'm glad to hear that.
I'm feeling inspired to learn more about how these ancient principles can be applied to my life today.
That's wonderful to hear. Remember, this is just a starting point.
Right.
There's a whole world of knowledge and resources out there waiting to be discovered.
Okay, so for our listeners who are now feeling inspired to delve deeper into TCM, where would you recommend they start?
Well, the best place to start is by finding a qualified and experienced TCM practitioner in your area. They can provide personalized guidance and support based on your individual needs. And of course, there are countless books, articles, and online resources available if you want to continue your exploration on your own.
You know, I am still processing everything that we've talked about today.
Me too.
It's a lot.
It is.
From the interconnectedness of the 6 Qi to the power of pulse diagnosis,
Right.
to the incredible complexity of herbal formulas.
Yeah, it really makes you appreciate this ancient system.
My mind is officially blown.
It's a lot to take in, but that's what makes this ancient text so fascinating.
Yeah, you think so too?
It offers a whole different way of seeing the world.
Right.
And understanding our place in it.
And you know what I find so compelling is that it's not just theoretical knowledge.
You know, it's not.
It's practical wisdom
Yes, definitely.
that we can actually apply to our lives today.
Absolutely. And one of the most important takeaways, I think, from Chapter 74
Yeah.
is the emphasis on preventative health.
Oh, absolutely.
TCM isn't just about treating illness. It's about cultivating balance and harmony to prevent illness from arising in the first place.
That's such a powerful concept,
It is.
especially in a world where we often wait until we're sick to even start taking care of ourselves.
It's so true.
TCM encourages us to be proactive,
Yeah,
to pay attention to like those subtle signals that our bodies are sending us,
right?
and to make lifestyle choices that support our overall well-being.
It's about tuning into our bodies
Yeah.
and understanding what they need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about listening to those whispers before they become shouts.
Exactly. And it makes me think about how this ancient wisdom can really inform our modern approach to health. I mean, we have so much access to information and technology these days, but sometimes I feel like we've lost touch with the basics. Listening to our bodies, connecting with nature.
I think you've hit on something really important there.
You think so?
Because TCM reminds us that we are not separate from nature.
We're a part of it.
Yes, exactly. And when we live in alignment with the natural rhythms and principles of the universe,
Yeah.
our health flourishes.
It's like coming full circle.
Yes.
We started this deep dive talking about the 6 chi, these fundamental forces of nature.
Right.
And now we're seeing how understanding those forces can help us to live in greater harmony with ourselves and the world around us.
It's all connected.
It is.
This has been an incredible journey, and I think it's safe to say that both of us, and hopefully our listeners, have learned a lot about the profound wisdom contained in the Yellow Emperor's Classic.
I couldn't agree more. It's a text that has stood the test of time.
Absolutely.
And continues to offer valuable insights for anyone seeking a deeper understanding of health and well-being.
So for our listeners who are now feeling inspired to explore TCM further, what would you recommend as a next step?
Well, I would suggest starting by seeking out a qualified and experienced TCM practitioner in your area.
Yep.
They can provide personalized guidance and support based on your individual needs. And of course, there are countless resources available online and in libraries.
Right.
If you'd like to continue your deep dive into this fascinating world of healing.
Excellent advice. And on that note, dear listener, we'll leave you with this final thought. What if we looked at our modern understanding of health and illness through the lens of these ancient principles? Could it offer a fresh perspective, maybe even a new path toward greater well-being? We encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking those nuggets of ancient wisdom that resonate with your own journey to health and wholeness. Until next time, stay curious,